So our table looks okay. I want to add some custom styling here. Now, I want to mention that this lesson is far beyond the basic stuff that I'm trying to introduce mostly. If this is tremendously confusing, either don't do it or just copy exactly what I do and modify it as needed. I'm going to try to talk through it, but it's so complicated and convoluted that I don't expect you to understand this right off the bat. But essentially what we're trying to do is create custom styling for our table because I want to do certain things, like I want to have the header row have a different style than the body. So there's sort of a janky way to do it, and then there's a right way to do it. But the right way to do it is just ridiculously difficult, but we'll try it. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new file in my components, and we're going to call it styleTableCell.tsx. And we're going to import styled from add emotion/styled first. So this is going to allow us to add custom styling. Now, one thing about the emotion thing, this emotion is a specific like facilitating dependency for Material UI. However, it requires you to render on the client side. So in order to do that with Next.js, we put this little key expression at the top called use client. And we're going to use this a lot more later. But for now, just understand that any page with use client is going to be rendered on the client side, which means it's going to be rendered in the user's browser rather than being rendered on the server side before it's sent to the browser. Import styled here, and then we need to import table cell, which is the component that we're going to be adjusting the style for. We're going to import table cell classes, which are the specific classes that apply to table cells, and we're going to import those from MUI/material/table cell. Okay, and we're going to have to import a couple other things for typing, but for now, let's see how far we can get before we have to do that. So the first thing I need to do is actually I need to create a function for styling. And the function's name is actually going to be create style table cell. We can name it whatever we want, but it's going to use this styled import from emotion, and we have to pass in our MUI component, which is table cell. Now this will return a function, which means that this is going to be equivalent to another function. Then we need to create a separate function that's actually going to be handling our adjusting the styles or applying CSS to our styles. It's going to be table cell styles, and here we're going to return, and inside of our return, this is right. So inside of our return, we're going to be returning an object, and the object is going to have instances of CSS styling. So the keys are going to be whatever style we're applying to, whatever class we're applying the style to. And then the value is going to be an object that contains the CSS. So it's essentially going to look like this, like a key value. This is how objects are, sort of like we did here with our students. We had our key value pairs. Let's go back to page.tsx. So we had our key name, value Dan, key ID, value number, key major, value this, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. In this case, our key is going to be the CSS property that we're changing. Sorry, the CSS class or whatever, I forgot, I'm trying to think of the word now, the CSS selector, that's what it's called. The CSS selector that we're using, for example, we could do H1, we could do whatever. In our case, we're doing something specific to our cell styles, and it's going to be contained inside of these, inside of our brackets here. We're going to use backticks instead of a normal string, and this is called template literals, which essentially lets us it put variables into a string. So the way that the format's going to be is it's an ampersand dot and then whatever the class name is, ampersand dot class name, and then this just applies to whatever the parent is. In this case, the parent is going to actually be the table head or the table body. Those are the parents that we want to apply it to. So we inject that into here with a $, open close curly brackets, and then we put the name of it in here. In this case, it'll be table cell classes, which is what we imported here, dot head, because we want this styling to apply specifically to the head here, the header row, and only the header row. We don't want it to apply to the table body at all. It only apply to the table head. And then now we put our styling in here. So I want to make the color of the text to be white. I want to make the background color. Now, normally, if you've done CSS before, you would type it like this, background dash color as black. But the problem is in JavaScript, we can't put a dash in a variable name. So the way that they work around that is instead they use camel case, which means we use a lowercase letter for the first word, and then we use a capital letter at the beginning of any subsequent words. So background dash color becomes background capital C color. Text dash size becomes text size. And we'll say 16, or sorry, font size, not text size. Font size 16, and text align, there we go. So I want to align it to the center, so center here. Cool, now I've got some styling applied to the head, and then I want to copy, or I want to do this again, so I'm going to do this again with the, so ampersand dot $, open close curly brackets, table cell classes dot body. And inside of here, we'll go color black, and we'll go background color white. We don't really need to do that because that's the default, but why not? We'll go font size. We'll make it a little bit smaller in the table body, and we'll go ahead and stick with the centering inside of the table as well. So this will center things inside of the table. So now I've got my table cell styles function. I have my create style table cells, which is also a function. And now what I need to do is I need to export a new component, which is going to be const styled table cell, and it's going to equal this function calling this function. It's a little weird, I know. Now this is going to give me some annoying stuff because it doesn't understand the typing. This is just TypeScript. Now we could just run this and it should work, but we want to get the typing correct. For this, the typing on this is going to, I believe it's going to need to be a CSS object. So we're going to import that from, we're going to import a CSS object from emotion styled. And then we're going to cast the return of this to be a CSS object. And that took care of that issue. Fortunately, that took care of that issue. So basically, this is just letting TypeScript know, hey, we're returning a CSS object. Don't worry, that's what you want. You want a function that returns a CSS object, and that's what I'm giving you. And then they go, cool, this is going to be a CSS object, so I don't have any issues with that. TypeScript is cool now. So once again, this is very weird, very advanced, but hopefully it made a little bit of sense. And the key is, does it work? So in order to use this, I have to bring this over to my table. So I'm going to go back to my table, and we're going to import that styled table cell from styled table cell. Now, it wasn't the default, so it was wrapped in curly brackets. That's fine. If I added the default keyword, that would have fixed that. Let's do that. That's the better way to do that. So we'll say export default. Sorry, default export. Wait, why doesn't it like that? It doesn't like export default. Expression expected. All right, whatever. I guess we're just gonna leave it like this. We'll just leave it like that. We'll leave it like this. So now I have this styled table cell. Now anywhere that I'm using table cell, I want to add the word styled in front of it. Let's do find and replace this time for it. So I'm gonna replace. Okay, cool. I'm gonna replace that with this. I don't want to do it with every single one. So let's start here. I don't want to replace this one. Actually, I want to get rid of this one. I'm not going to use it anymore. I don't want to replace this one because then I'm going to have style table cell. Same with I don't want to replace that one either. Now I can start replacing. So we'll replace. Okay. And there we go. We replaced all of the ones that we needed to replace. Now if I check, hopefully we will have, look at that. We've got a top row with a black background, white text, and it's slightly larger than the text here. So hey, that worked. Now I want to actually repeat this process, and maybe it'll just be good practice to repeat this process. I want to repeat this process for our table row. So I'm going to copy this entire thing so I don't have to rewrite all this weird code. I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to rename this file styled. Another thing that I didn't mention before is file names should not be capitalized, but components that are being exported should be capitalized. So the file names aren't, but the style table cell component is capitalized. Okay, style table row. Now here, I just want to change the things that say table cell into table row. Do I need the table cell classes for this? Where did I need that? No, I don't need that in this case. So I'm going to take this out completely. And we're going to put table row here. And in here, I actually don't need to use this kind of notation. I can just use a normal string inside of here. I actually don't even need to have it contained inside of this. What I can do is it's just going to be a string. And the string is going to say ampersand colon nth dash of dash type even. And this is basically going to say this style only applies to even rows. And we're going to change the background color to be kind of light gray. So let's do like for light gray and hex, it would be, so 000 is black, FFF is white. So let's make it like CCC, like that. And I'm going to take out everything else here. And I'm going to take out all this stuff. And we're going to change this to style table row. And I'm going to change this to style table row. I'm going to change this to table row styles. And change this to row. And change this to row. And now it's all applied to our rows. So let's go back over to my table and import that one. So we'll say import style table row from style table row. And I am going to go down here, and anywhere there's table row, which there's less of them, so I don't mind just doing it by hand, I'm going to add style table row here because we're going to be using our custom styled component. Here we'll do it as well. Style table row, style table row. And now, actually, I don't need it here because it never should be done in the head. So I can leave this as a normal table row, and it's because the alternating gray background color, sorry, I don't remember if I even explained that. So this will only apply to even number rows. I only want this sort of pattern to occur in the table body, not the table head. So I can leave the table head, table rows alone because I'm not doing any custom styling to them. I'm only applying it to the table body. So let's save that and let's see if that did what we wanted it to do. It doesn't look like it did. What did I do wrong here? Whoops. What did I do wrong here? Let's see. Style table row, is it the back? Let me just try a weird background color, blue or something, just so I can see if maybe it's, no, that's not it. Nth of type even, table. Let me see. Last time it was because I didn't save the file. I'm just gonna check this. Let me take a look here. So I want to make sure I did the nth of type thing correctly. Let me try copying and pasting this in here. That looks right. Background color, I spelled that correctly. This is that troubleshooting that's not all that fun. It's not supposed to be wrapped, is it? I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. No, that doesn't make sense. Nth of type even. Background color, good. Style table, table row. Okay, I am applying it to the table row. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, so what happened was I shouldn't be casting these because the order, the cascading part of the cascading style sheets means that this is overriding the styling from the row. So I actually want, there we go. I want to leave the background color and the color of the text alone so that I can do my styling at the row level rather than at the cell level. That was a CSS mistake. That wasn't a React mistake. That was just me forgetting how CSS works. So now I've got this alternating pattern. If I added more rows, it would continue going white, gray, white, gray, white, gray, like that. So we've got a pretty cool styled table here. Sorry for the little hang up at the end. I hope that this was informative. I know that this one is super duper complicated. It was actually pretty complicated for me to explain how it works, but if nothing else, just emulate this to the best of your ability, or just ignore it and stick with the basic Material UI styling. Doesn't really matter.